I just, with the whole thing, I've tried to be thorough as possible and a little different process. So many new players. Really didn't scratch out a whole lot of scenarios, to be honest with you, until like seeing kind of a full body of work, if you will. I probably made the decision with Kade about 2 weeks ago, to be fully transparent. Anthony probably a week ago, and Chase this week, and just wanted to see how the whole thing kind of came together. Sneak scenario with double midweek right off the bat as well. And so trying to set us up to be in a position to be successful each game while taking them one at a time. Kind of all those things factored into it.
What did those guys do to earn those spots?
I just like how they pitch. I think just starting with Kade, since he's going to pitch his first game, he's obviously really talented. I think it would have been a hard get to college, had he not got hurt in high school and had that injury. But I think the story is what he did from the end of last season. I mean, he finished the season great, in the postseason, SEC tournament and NCAA tournament, and then really devoted himself in the weight room over the summertime, transformed his body, elevated the pitchability. Coach Eske's done a really good job with him. Not surprised that pairing of Coach Eske and Kade has gone well at all. So there's a lot to like. I think I probably said this before, maybe not this year. Like whoever you kind of open with and who pitches at the end of the game, like you have to really trust the makeup of that pitcher, and I trust him with my life. Like he's one of the leaders on the team. If I really needed to get something done, I would go to him. So you like that. With Anthony, there's a lot to like. Strikes, high-level pitchability, composure. I could feel him smelling the season, so to speak. Like he's operated like a veteran. I think he got done what he needed to get done in the fall, but it just kind of kept going like that. Really happy to have him here, and think he's going to be a really good pitcher for us. And then with Chase, again, I've seen enough strikes and like where the health's at, like how he's gone about his business. I feel like we've had some good improvement here over the last month, and feel like he's ready to go. Yeah, and so, there's a lot of other ways we could do it, and as you guys have seen, there may be other ways that we end up doing it, but feel good about where we're at today.
With a guy like Chase, you compared him to Gage Jump. How important is it for him to get out there, get those starter innings, and kind of just improve each time he's on the mound?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he will improve as he goes along here. And the best coach that anybody ever has in their life is playing time and pitching time. And, for all the talent, for as much as everybody talks about baseball around here, you would think he's thrown like 300 innings. But he hasn't. He's thrown 19 and a third or 18 and a third, and I could probably tell you each of them because it was a big recruit for us to get. Probably one of the first big high school ones that we got when we came here. And so it's his time. I'm really excited for him. I'm excited for him to contribute to our team, and I feel good about his readiness, and just look for that improvement as we go along.
You said that you want one of your best pitchers in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea as to who that guy or guys could be?
Yeah, it's a number of them. I kind of went into this thing, to be honest with you, about thinking about doing it a little bit differently than maybe in the past, with maybe paring it down. I spend so much time with Coach Burtman, and one of his things is no matter what you think you have, you always have 8, maybe 10 on a really good team. And I definitely agree with that. I do think there's guys beyond that can contribute if we utilize them right. So it's not overly or really lined up just yet. Some guys have gotten better since we've gotten back. And, you know, I mean, obviously Gavin has done it, so you like him in any point in the game. You know, Connor Ware, I've talked about him a lot. You know, William Schmidt, Kade Evans. Primo has really done well since we've been back. Connor Benj has been awesome, and he's fine. I mean, I think you had asked me about him the other day. He's healthy, no problem with the line drive that he took the other day. Jacob Myers, really hard to hit. He's really hard to hit. So, you know, Jaden Newt has pitched really well for the last 3 weeks. Talk about a nice shot in the arm, you know, for him. I'm really proud of him. And, you know, Cooper Williams, I think, is going to be a key part of the staff. Dalton Beck has been pretty good, too, you know, recently. And, you know, coming in, you know, we were recruiting him maybe a little bit more as a hitter. I do think there's an avenue for him to contribute as a pitcher. Grant Fontenot has had a really good few weeks, We haven't made all of our scrimmages open to everybody this time around for several reasons. He's pitched well. Maverick Rizzi, think he's a star. Kade Evans, I think he's a star. So you get the point.
That's more than 8.
That's more than 8, yes. And, you know, Skip said to me one time, and he's probably right, he's like, man, if I had some of these guys, I never would have lost a game. So it's like, you're probably right, Coach. But he did all right with some pretty good pitchers, if I remember right.
You mentioned that your process was a little bit different this year in terms of, you know, sorting all this stuff out. Like, why was your process different? Just so many new guys?
New players. I think improvement, you know, sending guys home, even for a small amount of time. So we had a late fall. So, like, let's say November 22nd to January 24th maybe was the first official inter-squad game. That was 2 months as a chance for guys to change and improve. And I'll just use Connor Benj as an example. Like, I don't think we pitched him in the outside game at ULL, or I think he threw 1 inning over in Biloxi. He really got his identity put together over that time. You know, I mentioned Newt as examples. I didn't want to close myself off to, like, what was going to be the best at the outset of this thing. And when you have some good depth, I think that's important. And I think it's also fair to the players, and they know we're well thought out. And I just, you know, I love, like, lineups and scenarios, and this could be it, but I just didn't want my brain to, like, go somewhere that wasn't the most productive. And I actually feel like by doing that, on the position player side for sure, I feel like I have much better feel for this team this year than last year, which might sound crazy coming off a national championship. But I feel like I have much better feel for what we actually have on the position player group. On the pitching side, there's plenty of talent. I mean, they dominated really until last weekend, which that's kind of how you want it to go. Reminded me a lot of 23 this last weekend. I mean, some really talented pitchers got rearranged this weekend, and the first thing I thought is we have 2 guys that got paid a lot of money that at that last weekend before we played, they didn't finish an inning, like, against our offense that year. So I don't take too much of that, but I feel by waiting, I feel I have a little better picture of what the totality of what the fall to spring was and where we are today.
I guess building on that a little bit, you probably want to go into this season with a pretty open mind about how you want to sort this thing out in the field. Just what do you hope to see, I guess, in opening weekend from the guys that get a chance to play in the field?
Yeah,
different than past years.
No, what is opening day, or what is the problem with opening day? I've said this several times, and I'm stealing this from one of my competitors, is everybody always tries to do too much. Like, that's the problem with opening day. And so, like, mindset, mind frame, you know, and we have good players that maybe not are in the lineup right at the outset that are probably going to be in the lineup. And for those guys that are maybe just outside of what we're going to do on Friday, and there's a few at least, like, when you're in there, you're not playing to get more playing time. You're playing to help our team win in that moment that you're in. Because otherwise, then you revert to trying to do too much, and then you lose their effectiveness as a player when we're trying to use them in a spot where they have great effectiveness as a player. And so I like where we're at in this thing in terms of maturity, but you don't know until the bullets start flying. And that comes in different waves and phases of this thing. So there's a lot of unknown, and I certainly sit here not alone as a college head coach with that, because there's a lot of us that are really anxious to see what happens as we turn it on for real.
How much do you lean on somebody like Josh, who's probably played every kind of role for your team?
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's crushing the ball right now. He's ready to roll, and you use that leadership, and he's a good player. Like, he's a guy like the best is still yet to come. And when you think of profile, a little smaller, you maybe have seen the ceiling. I mean, who's had more big at bats than that guy in 3 years? I mean, anywhere in the country, not just at LSU. In the games that we've played in, I trust him, and like I said, he's worked hard, and he's in a really good spot right now.
We just talked to him, kind of being that poster boy of when your numbers call, being ready. And, I said he's a grinder. He said we got a lot of grinders. Do you feel like you got a lot of blue collar kids on this team that are in it? I mean, you've said this before, in it for the right reasons, but do you feel there's a little bit more on this one?
I like how they've gone about what we've done to this point, if that makes sense. Like the fall, how they approached winter on their own, and we've been back. I don't know what that means as far as where the team ends up, but I like how they've gone about their business. I had 40 individual meetings yesterday in 5 hours. And just, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of, it was just like, hey, let's talk, boom, here we are, this is where we're at today, let's move forward. And just like there's a collective maturity that you might not expect with so many new players. And I like that right now. And then it manifests itself into, I'll use grinders since it's the word you used, tough-minded people, and I think we have a chance for that. And I think they're growing, as we're going, and they're going to have to continue to do that with what's coming down the pipe.
Is that 8 minutes a week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that any of them lasted more than 10 minutes, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know the math on 60 minutes and an hour and 5. So
those guys in those interviews said I should be the Friday night guy.
Not one.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what's unique about that is they can't be a good competitor if that's not where they want to be. So I never worry about that. I never take offense to any of that. There's only one that's going to throw the first pitch of the season, and if you've been paying attention at all, it's pretty clear who that should be. And I mean that with a lot of good pitchers on the staff. So, and I think we've communicated well, and that's something I certainly want to do. And I think Coach Yeski's done a really good job of that. And just kind of how we've segmented the thing. Yeah, there's guys that believe in themselves, and there's guys that have been here that know how we roll a little bit, and you give them stories. You give them stories. In 2023, we beat Texas A&M 2 of 3. We very close to sweeping that series on the road, and Cade Beloso didn't get at bat. Braden Jobert didn't get in at bat. Hayden Travinsky was not on the roster. You had a few guys that pitched that were injured by the time we got to the postseason, and then other guys filled in and stepped in for them. And those stories, and you guys know better than me, they've been happening around here forever. I mentioned a year that we went to Omaha, Arizona. The starting shortstop and starting third baseman didn't play very much the first weekend of the year, and that's the left side of the infield. So I think they have a good handle on those things, and just try to keep communicating.
You brought up the left side of the infield. You made a decision, you guys kind of rolling with it.
Yeah, we're going to go with Steven at short and Michael at third. Just peeling back the layers about that. Steven's feet in terms of coming and getting the ball, moving right and left, really good clock and understanding the speed of the game was really good. I honestly think we would have been there a long time ago without any drama had he not missed half the fall. And then with Michael, I haven't seen the game really speed up on him at third base, and as he continues to get more reps there, I think he'll be an excellent third baseman. And so it really wasn't that hard, but again, seeing it through was really important. Yeah, I feel great about that. You know, and we try to do some things and behind the scenes to make their strengths the strengths and show up more in the game without elaborating on all that, but I don't have any concerns with that.
You talked a lot about Chase Shores earlier. Nate Yeske said that he is a gentle giant, that he needs to get meter. Do you see that from him as well?
I've seen him pitch very aggressively at times, and I would not want to stand in the box when he's in that countenance. So for whatever that's worth, I guess I would agree with it.
Just it looks like there's going to be more than play than just 3, but just what does it look like in the outfield, I guess, to start, or if that's something you're even
Yeah, I mean, I think I shared this, I think maybe when we were talking on the radio last night. We were doing a fly ball communication or pop-up priority, however we label it. And I looked out there, and there was 2 guys in one spot, 3 guys in one spot, and 3 guys in another spot. And I was like, I just kind of shook my head, and I was like, I'm good with any of these guys playing. I really mean that, you know. I think it's not really complete picture yet. I think there's spots where guys fit better. I don't want them to, again, all of these guys fit into, like, you're not playing for more playing time when you're playing. You're playing to help us win. And so, like, I don't want to go too far down the road with it other than I feel great about our outfield situation. And I feel like the ceiling of that group is really, really high. Defensively has a chance to be the strength of the team. Offensively, there's several guys that can impact the game. And there's a lot of experience. And, and then, with Derek, he's a young player that's obviously going to play. He might be the smartest player on our team, in full transparency. So I feel really good about where we're at there.
You said you have a better feel of this year's team than last year. I think you mentioned that a couple of times. Why do you think that's the case?
I think maybe tried to force some things last year that I don't want to say guys weren't ready for, but wanted them to be able to do something so bad, when it wasn't going to happen. And this gut feel of man, I really want to get this player to this, but it's not there. And so now, using that experience as a positive, I think we recruited better, and there's several reasons for that. I could talk for a long time about that, but it's pointless. It's just the freshmen, we've had the full runway. We had the full runway with this class, full runway from start to finish. I mean, we got Cooper Williams July 29th or something like that. We got Derek Curiel in the middle of his sophomore year, So I think recruiting has something to do with that, and then now, there's the depth to be able to look ahead and go this will work for this player, where we were kind of locked into you better hit the ball over the fence, and it wasn't my style of a team, and I think it's probably because I tried to force along wanting some guys to be able to do something that is really hard to do, and so I learned a lot from that.
One of the things that has repeated itself when talking to players is they say you've gotten the right guys in the locker room alongside them. So I'm curious, you kind of touched on it there, but what has enabled you to get the right guys? Do you have a metric? Did you talk to Jack? Jack's got a thing over at football that they do this test, I guess, to kind of test intangibles.
Yeah, I think part of it was necessity. And with the high school guys, you show up here, and it's hey man, it's not just UCLA and Stanford anymore, and Arizona State. It's everybody that we're competing against for players, and so we had to jump into that quickly. But there's only so much you could do in those first couple years because kids were committing so early. But it's all right, Derek Curiel, it's going to be us or Mississippi State, and I don't want to go too far down the road with every guy, but there's an intensity that at least we had a fair fight or we started on equal ground, and it's the first group of freshmen that we really started on equal ground. And then with the portal, like, look, like, we had to do more because so many guys have gone to professional baseball. And like I said, if you want like a vision, I want to continue the winning and success that Coach Burtman did here while moving guys on to professional baseball. Like, I saw like the Eagles had like 5 guys on their defense from Georgia. It's like, man, wouldn't it be cool to watch a World Series someday and there's 4 LSU guys playing in the World Series? Like, that's what I want this to be.
If I'm not mistaken, you said before you weren't maybe sure how good you were defensively because the pitching maybe was masking some of that. Did you see a little more of what you
Yeah,
see?
I did. And that happened a little bit in our first year. First off, nobody told me how cold it could get here in like January and February before I showed up here. And so it's cold. It's not conducive to offense early. And like that first year where offense was actually the strength of that team, the pitchers completely dominated them, and it kind of masked some of the defensive struggles that we had. I feel like we're in a good spot, and I feel like there's some versatility with what we can do with some guys. You know, like Mikey Ryan is a really good defensive player. Like, he could factor into late in the game. I feel like, you know, we have the left side of the thing settled. You know, Danny's going to play second base, so that's settled in terms of, you know, what he needs to work on to be better there. The outfield defense has a chance to be spectacular. The catchers, like, we can line them up where, you know, they can be in a good spot to catch the right pitchers. And then it's going to come into play more with the nature of our pitching staff. And so being a good defensive team is going to be really critical to being the best team that we can be. So I'm excited about what I think I know. And when you kind of condense it down to we're all in the same dugout now, and like all the coaches can help that part of it. Like, I'm watching like 5 things that are going on at one time, you know, in a scrimmage game. It'll be awesome to be on defense when we're on defense and on offense when we're on offense.
How do you time for one more in this era, this new era, before they live in NIL motion, putting this roster together? So you feel like you have people putting together all the things you had, all taking all together. How do you feel like it came out? How do you think you guys did? Your goals?
All to be determined, you know. But I will say I really like going to the field every day with this team. I love that there's a lot of guys that want to work on their own at 9:30 in the morning, you know, and we've had some really good jumps in player development, you know, with me being able to get on the field with guys that want to do that, you know what I mean? And as an example, the work ethic is really good, you know, like to Glenn's question, like, yeah, they probably all wanted to start the game tomorrow, but there's no drama in like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where you're at today, this is the path forward, like, let's go. So that I feel like there's buy-in to the team. Now, that's all going to get tested because we're going to lose a game at some point. You know, somebody's not going to play for 5 games in a row. And so probably that's where I mean by the to be determined thing. But I do like coaching them. I feel like the buy-in is really strong in terms of where we're trying to go. I feel like we have used last season really well to help prepare us for this season. And you know, unless you're holding up the trophy, which I've only done one time, like, I always want to do that. You know what I mean? And hopefully we'll do that again someday, and then I'll be better prepared for that, you know, in terms of small things. Like, you know, we pushed last year's team really hard on the field, and maybe they weren't ready for that. You know what I mean? So it's exciting, and I really like coaching them, and you know, we got a lot of tests ahead of us, and so just kind of focusing on them as they come. You know, can they be very level-headed? Like, we won a game. We're not the greatest team in the world. We had a tough loss. The world's not falling apart, and show up the next day ready to win. You know, and do the things we need to do to win. So I'm ready for that, and you know, I think that they're ready for that.
Thanks, Jed.
Thanks, guys.
Check.